Hello there, and welcome to another episode in the Georgia Workers' Compensation video series. My name is Jason Perkins, and I'm an attorney who specializes in handling Georgia workers' compensation cases. I created this series of videos because I want to provide people who have been hurt at work with helpful information about Georgia's workers' compensation law and the benefits that they should receive under that law. Today I'm going to cover a topic that's been popular in this series, and that's things that workers' compensation adjusters don't tell you. So we're going to talk about some more things that workers' compensation adjusters don't tell you today. Now, this is not every workers' compensation adjuster. Some adjusters tell you everything that you should know about your case. This covers some of the things that I run into that most commonly workers' compensation adjusters don't tell you about Georgia's workers' compensation law. And the first is that if you're working on light duty but making less money than you did before you got hurt, you should be receiving something called temporary partial disability benefits. This can happen if you are working less hours as a result of your injury, or you're working a different job that pays you less per hour, or you're missing time for doctor's appointments. If you're making less money because of your workers' comp injury, you should be receiving temporary partial disability benefits. And this is one of the most common things that workers' compensation adjusters don't pay you when you should be receiving them. Second thing you may not hear from the workers' compensation adjuster is that you should receive permanent partial disability benefits if you have a permanent impairment as a result of your injury. So, if you're not 100% better, your doctor should consider giving you something called a permanent partial disability rating. It entitles you to some weekly benefits to compensate you for that permanent impairment. And many times I've seen people who don't ever receive this rating, even though they should, or they receive a rating, but it's not as high as they should receive, and they don't get told by the adjuster that they can actually contest that rating if they disagree with it. The third thing that an adjuster may not tell you is that they cannot stop your workers' compensation checks without filing proper workers' compensation forms. I see many situations where adjusters just stop checks without filing any state board of workers' compensation forms. There's a form called the Form WC2 that an adjuster is supposed to file whenever they start paying you benefits and when they stop paying you weekly benefits. But often this does not happen. An adjuster may just stop your benefits without filing a form. They're not supposed to do that. A fourth thing that workers' compensation adjusters don't tell you is that they are supposed to file a document called a Form WC6 if they are paying you workers' compensation benefits and paying you less than the maximum weekly workers' compensation rate. So Georgia has a maximum amount per week that you can draw when you're receiving workers' compensation benefits for being out of work. And if the adjuster's paying you less than that maximum amount, they're supposed to file a document that shows how they calculated what's called your average weekly wage and determines what they're paying you per week in workers' comp. So your average weekly wage is a certain amount. It's your average of what you made in 13 weeks before your injury in most cases. And workers' comp pays you 2/3 of that amount. So if your average weekly wage was $600, workers' comp check would be $400. But the adjuster is supposed to file this document showing how they calculated what they're paying you. I see many, many cases where adjusters don't file this document. So you're just receiving a workers' compensation check and don't know how the adjuster calculated it, which doesn't allow you to determine whether they calculate it correctly or not. So you may be paid way too low in your weekly check, and it's hard enough to get by on workers' comp when you're drawing 2/3 of what you used to make, much less if you're drawing even less than that because the adjuster didn't calculate it correctly. So you need to make sure that Form WC6 is filed so you can determine if you're receiving the correct amount from workers' comp. Another thing that the workers' compensation adjuster probably won't tell you is that you should speak with an attorney if you have a serious workers' compensation injury. Get a free consultation with an attorney to find out what your workers' compensation rights are. It doesn't mean you have to hire an attorney. It just means you should talk to somebody to make sure that you understand the benefits that you should be receiving and what your rights are. Hope you found this information helpful. If you have, please let me know that by liking this video or giving it a thumbs up. If you'd like to set up a free consultation with me about your workers' compensation case, I'd be happy to do that. There's two easy ways you can get that scheduled. The first is by calling the phone number on the bottom of the screen, and the other is by reaching out to us through our website, which is www.perkinslawtalk.com. Click on and submit the free consultation request form, and a member of our team will contact you to get a consultation scheduled. I'd like to thank you again for watching this video today. I want to wish you the best of luck as you recover from your injuries.